In 1947, a young General Electric engineer had an idea. He felt that things cost too much. The story could have ended here, except for a far-sighted GE purchasing vice president who gave Miles his support. During the next 5 years, Miles put together the world's first system for optimizing cost and function. The system, value analysis, expanded and strengthened as captured the attention of the world. In October 1983, the Society of Japanese Value Engineers invited Miles to visit Japan to present to a Japanese company the Miles Award to recognize excellence in the application of value analysis. On the eve of his 80th birthday, several members and fellows of the Society of American Value Engineers visited with Miles at his home on the eastern shore of Chesapeake Bay to record the story of value analysis. Their motivation: respect for Miles, and a conviction that value analysis is indeed the ultimate methodology for solving problems involving cost and function. What follows are selections from these 3 days of inspiration.
Good morning, folks. I am happy to tell you about the start and the main strength of a new technology that is called value analysis. About every 100 years, 2 or 3 of these strong technologies come forth, technologies of thinking, and it's a delight to tell you. The way we started, I guess I'll start as a farm boy who came to General Electric and went into engineering. I was concerned during some of this period because it seemed that everything cost too much. One day I went into my boss's office and said, "Doesn't anybody care what things cost?" He was a good boss, and he turned around, picked up the phone, called the Vice President of Purchasing, and quoted me. Vice President says, "Send him over." A month later, I was working for the Vice President of Purchasing. And there I had a chance to come to grips with what things cost. The country was in desperate straits right then, trying to produce everything and short of material for planes and for guns and for all kinds of equipment. But it was my job to find special materials that were required. We went into tremendous endeavor to get scarce materials right away. It was in the low 1940s, so every factory was sold out of everything. But my job was to absolutely get what was needed. Increase the turbo superchargers for airplanes from 50 to 2,000 a week, and other things likewise. I found that I could not go into the factories and take the specifications I had and find any space. But I did find that if I got functional specifications, if I knew what the product had to do, that I could find somewhere that would make something that would do it. This helped in many, many cases. In one case, even though the market was 2 years oversold on capacitors and resistors, I was given the job of starting next week on deliveries, weekly deliveries of a whole bill of resistors and capacitors. I asked the production manager who agrees with him, and he said, "Harry Ehrlicher, your boss agrees that you should get them." Talked to him, and that's true, and so I did. They were not the same ones on the drawing, but they had the same functions. They went in some very important electronic developments. This type of thing taught me that the most interesting thing, the most valuable thing, was not necessarily the words that somebody had put on a drawing or a specification, but the true meaning of what was needed, of what the use was. Time moved along. I was a manager of purchasing for one of the plants, but I couldn't get off my mind that there was a lot better way to buy what we needed than to buy material specifications. So I wrote Harry Ehrlicher, then purchasing vice president, and said, I'd like to give up my job here as the purchasing manager at this plant and come back and into your staff and have time for research. I believe I can find a very much better way to spend our money and to get what we need. Harry says, come ahead. The last of November 1947, I moved to Schenectady. There was at that time a new man there, William Sredenchek, who had been a sales manager for the company and was a very, very keen and intelligent man. And he was being groomed to be the vice president of purchasing. He came into my office and said, Harry Ehrlicher has told me you're going to be here between assignments for a little while, and he wants to latch you on to me. So I'm your boss. So Bill Sredenchek and I became associated. I asked Bill for an appointment and said, now, we've got a different angle here. We're not going to just buy material, we do that too, but we have found that if we can buy functional specifications, buy the function instead of just buy a piece of material, it works out a lot better. He says, what do you mean? So I showed him a number of cases. For example, I showed him that on the fastener for this cold control, this piece of phosphor bronze costs $9,000 a year. What's its function? It's to hold on the cover. Said we can hold that cover on for $3,000 a year. This tubing here costs $50,000 a year. We can buy a tubing that'll do that job, but not to that specification, for $25,000 a year. Bill bought it. And he says, Larry, how are we going to go about it? I said, well, the first thing we have to do is get backing here. I'm going to need some help in the budget. And he said, fine, let's go and see Harry Ehrlicher. So he called Harry Ehrlicher, and we went in and saw him. And we showed him these things, showed him a totally different approach, and Harry Ehrlicher bought it. He set up an appointment with the Vice President of Engineering, Harry Winnie, where I could show him what this was. I showed Harry Winnie the functional approach. So Harry Winnie bought it. Harry Winnie said, this is the best method yet found to help engineers locate and remove unnecessary costs from their product. He says, what are you going to call it? I said, I don't know. What should we call it? He said, it's certainly not cost reduction. He says, it's not cost analysis, it's so much more. It's not function analysis, because we have other things we call that. He says, why don't you call it value analysis? Anything has value if it has the proper function and the proper cost. And those are the two things that you pay attention to. Fine. So, of course, I was overjoyed knowing that I had the support of the enormous engineering profession in General Electric through its top leader. Within the next few days, Mr. Shredencheck made an appointment for me with Nick Dushman, the Vice President in charge of manufacturing, to whom purchasing at that time reported. I had the 20-minute, Bill and I had a 20-minute appointment. We were over, and it was 2 hours before Dushman would let us away. We showed him examples, we told him how it was done. He listened and he perceived. When we got through, he said, "Larry, I want you to train 1,000 men a year." Now I had it charted. And now I could think in terms of really doing something, and of course the first thing was to get some men, some good people to do it. Bill Shredencheck had said, "Larry, whenever you hire a man, get a better man than yourself. Good people know that and do it." So I went to work on that basis. Meanwhile, the way we had been training people was to have engineers come in from the plants, bring a product, work on the product in our office and under our own supervision. One of these men was a young engineer named Roy Fountain from the Erie Locomotive Department. Well, Roy started out, he was just like we were, didn't know quite what to do, but pretty soon he just changed, tore that thing apart, and he could get the performance for fractions of the cost. His assignment was up, and he went back to Erie. And I had to be careful to not become unpopular because of pirating good men from the operating departments where they had to succeed for General Electric. So I didn't make him any offer. About a month later, Roy sent me a copy of a letter that he had written to someone in the locomotive department suggesting something that was very valid. I easily see it should be done. And the manager who received it knocked it down. Said, I can't remember the words he used, it doesn't matter. It just knocked it down. So I saw right then that Roy was not being used in that area. So I got enough salary offer from Shredencheck so I could go up and call on him and Maxine and make him the offer, and we got Roy Fountain on the team. Roy's first job was to go to work on this training 1,000 people a year. We worked together, putting together the first big seminar in 1952, I believe it was October, where we had about 60 people that came from all kinds of departments and gave them 4 weeks of training and put forth the rudiments of value analysis on it. This is the way it got started.
In the 30 years since that first seminar, value analysis has emerged as the #1 problem-solving process when both cost and function are involved. Such a dramatic expansion could hardly have occurred without a plan which responded to real needs. How did the plan evolve? What need did it fulfill? Miles' chief lieutenant in the critical developmental years between 1952 and 1959 was Roy Fountain.